Sainath,
Sir,
from here,
sir,
what are the things I explained from the introduction to statistics?
qualitative, quantitative.
What about level of measurement? Am I explain anything about measure of levels of measurements? This qualitative and
Yes, sir.
quantitative.
Nominal.
I think I explained. Nominal, just a name. So ordinal in the sense it should be having some kind of order. Interval in the sense some kind of group, right? Ratio in the sense some continuous data. I think I explained about introduction to statistics in our previous sessions. Now, this session I would like to talk about describing the data. For example, if we have some kind of data set, okay, if we have some kind of data set, okay, so that particular data set, so we are able to go for describe it, okay. For describing that one, we are going to be using the two things. One is the measure of central tendency and the measure of dispersion. Okay, let's talk about measure of central tendency. So measure of central tendency in the sense, so it's what exactly which is saying. It's a single value. Measure of central tendency in the sense is a single value that representing the center point of the data set. Okay, this value can also be referred as the central location of the data set. Okay, so for example, you have some data. It was huge, right? So data, it was a data set. It might be containing the a number of elements, right? For example, I have the 10,000s of data elements are there. Okay, that means we have a 10,000s of data elements are there. From this particular 10,000s of data element, we need to talk about central point. Okay, we are talking about central point. This is the point, or this is the number that we are calling it, say, central tendency, measure of central tendency, or else central location of that particular data set. Clear? For making for finding the central value, okay, in a statistics there are a common measure of central tendency methods or functions. One is the mean, median, and mode. Okay, so mean in the sense it's average value, right? Median in the sense it's when you're sorting the data. Okay, the middle element we are calling it, say, median. Mode in the sense mostly frequently one particular element has been repeated, right? That we are calling it's a mode. Okay, see, so those things we are calling, these are the three things it can help you to find out the measure of central tendency. Okay, now we need to go for understand why the measure of central tendency is useful. Okay, for example, before you look how to calculate the mean, median, and mode, it helpful is to understand why these measures are actually helpful for the first place. So for example, you just consider this, um, you just read this particular statement considering the following scenario. Okay, so this is a small example. Let's talk about this particular example. Actually, a young couple is trying to be decide where to buy their first home, okay, in a new city, and the most they can spend approximately 1 lakh of $50 only. Okay, some neighbors in the city have expensive houses, some have cheap houses, and other have median prices houses. They want to easily narrow down their search to specific neighborhood that are within their budget. Actually, okay, let's talk about this one. You have some amount, right? Okay, so you want to buy one specific house. Okay, so, and how you can deciding that in which area will able to get this house actually. Okay, or you want to buy one particular house with some amount. Okay, with that particular amount, and how you able to go for decided in which area I can able to buy with this amount, right? So by the time you might be do some kind of survey, right, you might be talk about your neighbors or else your elders or well wishers, right? By the time they will give you some kind of information, in my area this is the budget, the average expenses could be this much of amount, okay, and some location it was cheap, right? Based upon that particular idea, okay, based upon that particular information, based upon that particular analysis, you are able to go for decide on which area you are able to go for buy that particular house. Okay, that's exactly. So there we are talking about, okay, see, average amount, right? Some of the neighbors city have expenses, somehow cheap houses, and other have the medium prices houses. They can want easily narrow down, okay, so your expenses or medium or cheap. Based upon this information you can able to go for, okay, buy this particular house actually. Okay, that is a simple one. Okay, so for understanding that one, we have some kind of information. Okay, if the couple just look at the individual home prices in each neighborhood, they might have the tough time to determining which neighborhood best fit their budget, because they might see something look like this, right? For example, some a prices, a home prices, some people, for example, you met one particular area guy, okay, he was giving this kind of information in this particular area budget, okay, and in the another guy he was giving that some budget, right? Okay, and so for C guy he is giving some budget, right? So that means here we have a three group of people are there. Okay, so cheap, expensive or medium. So based upon this is the data we have it. Based upon this information we can easily go for, okay, however if they knew the average measure of central tendency home prices in each neighborhood, they might, then they could narrow down their search much quicker, because they could more easily identify which neighborhood has more prices that in their budget. Then you can find the average of this one. Okay, you will get some value, right? And here also you can do the average of this all things and you will get some value, right? Here also we can do average of them. You will do this some average, right? Here also you will be getting some value, right? So based upon the average value of this one, based upon the average value of this one, and based upon average value of this one, okay, he might deciding that and which area he can easily figure out on which neighborhood places he can able to buy the that particular house actually. Okay, see for example this is the average price of a homes and B, and so C. So from this one, what is his budget actually? His budget is approximately 150. Okay, his budget is 150K, right? 150K, it could be, this is very high expenses and this is also very high, and 140 is is equal to less than or equal to 150, right? 140. So he can deciding that, okay, this is the neighborhood C home prices could be better for my budget. That he can easily figure out actually based upon that information. Okay, that means with help of the central tendency we can take the decisions. Okay, by knowing the average of home price in each neighborhood, they can quickly see the neighborhood C is we can have a most homes available in their budget actually. Okay, and this is the benefits using measure of central tendency. It helps you to understand the center value of the data set, which tends to describe where the data values typically fall. Okay, where the most of the data can be typically fall. So with help of that one we can easily, okay, use this particular center tendency. Okay, one more time, this is the small information. A measure of center tendency is useful because it provides us with a single value that describe the center of that particular data. Okay, with help of that particular data we can easily find out the where the most of the data is fall. Okay, so here the first method is the mean, right? So what is the formula for the mean? Mean in the sense sum of the all the values by the total number of values. Okay, and for example this is the player one and this is home runs, and so the mean number of home runs it for player can be calculated as, so that means here we have 10 players, right? Okay, there are 10 players out there, so the average run value is it's a 15.2 when you sum up that all the runs by the total number of players. Okay, median in the sense, median in the sense what we can do, we can able to go for finding the middle value, exactly the middle value. So for this particular step one, so we have to go for arranging the data in ascending order. Okay, Once if your data is arranged either ascending or descending order, okay, then if it is the odd number of elements, if it is the odd number of elements, exactly the middle element. But when we have even number of elements, we have to find the average value of the middle two terms. Okay, 13 plus 14 by 2, it could be the 13.5, right? So this is the way. Okay, for example, here I have the total nine people are there. So the 9 people of home runs we are ascending, we are making the data as ascending format, and from that one the middle value is the 14. So 14 could be the central point. Okay, but when we have the even number of things, then we have to find out the average value of the middle two terms, so that 13 plus 14 by 2, it could be 13.5. Okay, so that is the median. When you're talking about mode, is a mode is a occurs the most often in the data set. So here we can see um so the following data is one mode 15, this is the value most occurrence. See how many times. So in this particular example, we don't have any mode because of all elements are equal. So 1 is repeated one time, 9 is repeated, so 8 is 9 repeated one time, every value is repeated one time only. So that kind of situation, we can simply say that no mode. When we have another example, we have a 10 players, out of the 10 players, 15, there are two people, right? So, and that particular situation, it's a 15 is the mode. But we can see, so 8 is repeated two times, 15 is repeated two times, 19 is also repeated two times. In this particular situation, we have the three modes. These are the values that mostly occur. This the mode can be particularly helpful measure the central tendency where working with categorical data, because most of the time this is not helpful for the continuous. When you're working with the categorical data like nominal or ordinal data, okay, then this will help you. Actually the mode thing can help you. Okay, so when with help of the mode only, we can able to go for finding the frequency table. See, for example, green 8 people and blue 14 people, red, okay, 12 frequency, purple is the 4 people, pink, so for example 8, okay, orange, it approximately 2. Okay, so this is the frequency table. The frequency table, we can able to plot it in a histogram, oh sorry, it's like, just bar graph. It's the mode response that occur the most frequency. Okay, from this particular histogram, what's your figure out, actually blue could be the mode value, okay, which is repeated 14 times. Okay, so with the help of these three methods, we can easily find out the central point. Is there any question? Now here we have some questions here. Mean, when to use the mean or median and mode. So which is very important question actually. We have seen that mean, median, mode all measure of central tendency or typical value of data set is a very different ways. Okay, mean in the sense finding the average of the data set. It's a middle value, right? It's the most frequency occurring in the data set, right? Here scenario where certain central tendencies are better to use. When to use the mean. So here the best, it is the best to use the mean when the distribution of the data is fairly symmetrically, there is no outliers. For example, when you are distributed, when you whatever the data set we have it, when you're distributed, you will be getting the graph something like this. Okay, so this is symmetric distribution. When the data is symmetrically normally distributed, when symmetrically distributed, left side and right side could be equal part, then that particular situation we can use the mean, and you don't have any kind of outliers in the sense some extreme points which is not there within the range, some value it may be out of the range, that we are calling it say outliers. Okay, for example, the every data it could be fall within this particular distribution only. Okay, there is no outliers and the data could be distributed equally. Okay, then that we are calling it a symmetrical distribution. When the data is symmetrically, when no outliers, then mean could be the better option. Mean could be the better option. For example, we have the following distribution that shows the salaries of individuals at a town. So in a one particular town, so the average income of 20,000 could be 100 people. Okay, and 25,000 could be approximately 80, and 30,000 approximately 90. Like we have a distribution something like this. Okay, so this is the distribution is approximately my curve or not, whatever I explained above thing, this red color curve. Okay, this is symmetrically distribution. When the data is symmetrically distribution and we don't have any kind of outlier, then mean could be the good value, good thing. Okay, so the mean term is this one only, right? The exactly middle value that we are calling it's a mean. Okay, now when we can use the median. So median is the best when the distribution is either skewed in the sense maybe the data is left skewed or right skewed. It's not symmetric distribution. Okay, see, you just see this particular distribution. Most of the data is fall in the left side. You can see this graph. Most of the data it was distributed left, and we have some kind of outlier in the sense you just see this particular data. The data was distributed here, but there could be some kind of outlier. Okay, this is outlier actually. Okay, when we have a outlier, okay, or when we have data is not symmetrically distribution, then we would like to go for use the no median term. Okay, so mode is the when the data is categorical. So best thing is that when the data is categorical. Okay, like we can see, and color here it is not explained. Okay, in general we are working with numerical data like square footage, home, number of homes, salary, individual. Then it is useful better to use the mean and median. But typical value note is important to data typically normally distributed, the mean, median, mode, all the same values. Okay, but mode it can help you when the data is categorical data, like uh, I would like to go for find the expenses, house expensive or good or bad. That particular situation we would like to go for use the okay mode term. So with help of this mean, median, mode, we can able to go for use. We will find out the best thing. Now we have measure of dispersion. Measure of dispersion in the sense previously we just figure out only middle value, right? But with based on the middle value how the data is distributed, that we can analyze with the help of the measure of dispersion. When we analyze the data set, we often care about two things: where the center value is located, that we are calling it say central tendency, and how that particular data is distributed around that particular central value, that we are calling it say, and measure of measure of dispersion. Okay, so this measure of dispersion we can use with help of the range or interquartile or variance and standard deviation. These are the methods we are going to be using actually. Okay, so here the range in the sense the difference between the largest and the smallest values in the data set. Whatever the data set we have it, we can see this is my final exam student, this is student name and his final exam score. Okay, out of this final exam score you can have a smallest value and a highest value, right? Smallest score and highest score, right? The difference between the highest minus the smallest, that we are calling it say range. So from this particular from this particular data set, the largest value is the 98 and the smallest value is the 58. So the difference of the 98 and 58 we are calling it a range. Okay, so the range of the data is in between 40. I mean, data is distributed with 40 differences. Interquartile range in the sense, the difference between the first quartile and the third quartile. So before we understood the interquartile range, whatever the data set we have it, this entire data set we have to be split into, or we have to find out the we have to make it in a 5 elements. Okay, so min, max, this is the min, this is max. Okay, and this is median value or mean value, middle value. Okay, this is min, max and middle value. So here in between the min and the median we have the middle value, right? So the middle value of the min and max, that we are calling it say quartile 1. Okay, so the middle value of the mean and max value, that we are calling it a quartile 3. Okay, The difference between this quartile 3 and this quartile 1, that we are calling it say interquartile range. The difference between the quartile 1 and quartile 3, that we are calling it interquartile range. The difference between the max and min, that we are calling it a range. I hope you understood the difference between the range and I hope you understood what is the difference between the range and interquartile range. Range is nothing but difference between the min and max, or max and min. And interquartile range in the sense, so whatever the data set we have it, that we have to be make it into 5 elements actually. So min and max, in between the min and max we have the middle value, and in between the middle value and min, that we are calling it the interquartile quartile 1. The middle value of the middle and max, that we are calling it say quartile 3. The difference between the quartile 3 and quartile 1, that we are calling it say interquartile range. Okay. Okay, so this is the data. We can make it the data, we can arranging the data. Okay, so first we have to find out the middle value. Okay, this is your middle value. 85 and 88 is the middle value. And now the median, split the data set into two halves actually. Okay, and the median lower half and lower half we are calling it a Q1, and median upper half, that we are calling it a Q3. So this is your quartile 1. So this is the data below the quartile 1. This is the data in between the quartile 1 and median, and this is the data, it could be median and quartile 3, and this is the data, it could be quartile 3 and max. Okay, so the distance between the difference between the Q3 and Q1, so you have to find out the, okay, 91. So difference, the middle value is, I mean, this is your quartile 1, quartile 3. This 75 is quartile 1, 91 is the quartile 3. So 91 minus 75.5, that we are calling it central quartile range. Okay, so just as of now, you try to be go for understanding only range and interquartile range. In the next class we will talk about the variance, standard deviation, and other stuff. We'll talk about it. Okay, that's for today's class, guys, and hopefully we can go through this particular statology and the basic tutorial of the stats, and then we'll continue the session on Monday, and we'll so we'll talk about some graphs, I mean, measure of distributions around some kind of visualization techniques. We'll talk about it. Okay, bye, take care.
Bye. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.